Today on the Novelizers, New Girl's Jake Johnson, The Big Bang Theory's Kevin Sussman, plus Will Hines and intern Kevin Carter. Now here's your host, Andy Richter.
What are the most important qualifications for leadership? Some say wisdom. Some would say the skill to find compromise. Others would say the ability to jump in a jet plane, fly up in the sky, and shoot down invading alien spaceships. At least that's the premise of the 1996 film Independence Day. Independence Day was one of the biggest films of all time and inspired a generation of young people to become presidents, fighter pilots, and alien conspiracy theorists. But despite its enormous impact on our society, you won't find Independence Day in any library until now. Hi, I'm Andy Richter, and as leader of this podcast, it's my job to turn great movies into even better books. This season, we've ordered the novelization of Independence Day, which starred Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum. Now here's my intern Kevin to tell us where we are so far in the story.
Yeah, so alien spaceships are surrounding the Earth, and Jeff Goldblum has pretty much figured out that they're evil by cracking their secret code using his 1995 Apple PowerBook. Huge coincidence, Goldblum's ex works at the White House, so he calls her and says, "Stop whatever you're doing during this alien invasion and get me a meeting with the president." We also meet Will Smith, who is an Air Force pilot with a kid, a dog, and a stripper girlfriend, and he's just been called up to duty.
Oh, I can't wait to hear what happens next. And thanks to novelizer Mickie Cathers and New Girl's Jake Johnson, I don't have to. Jake Johnson, novelize me.
Chapter 5, Hot City Nights, novelized by Mickie Cathers, narrated by Jake Johnson. People are screaming. Sirens are wailing. IKEA futons are being thrown from windows into the street. That's right, it's the 4th of July weekend in the city. It's hot, it's humid, the air feels soupy, and your clothes stick to your skin. Though it's hard to breathe in this oppressive heat, the unmistakable smell of sweat, burning charcoal, and barbecue chicken fills the air. The giant UFO above is creating a nice shadow over the city, but it's still so friggin' hot. Even the rats are in line for Mr. Softy. Tempers are short, and the cockroaches are armed with knives. "Look out!" David cries as he rides his 10-speed through the water, gushing from an open fire hydrant, sending kids running in all directions. David narrowly avoids the oldsters in their lawn chairs in the middle of the street and pulls over to the sidewalk. He hops over the curb and leans his bike against the brownstone staircase, grabbing his bag and running up the steps to the front door. He knocks on the door. "Come on, come on, come on, come on," he mutters, as behind him one of the kids who was playing in the fire hydrant deftly removes the seat and wheels from his bike. The door of the brownstone opens suddenly and a shotgun is thrust in his face, which David instinctually grabs with his hand and shoves aside, narrowly preventing his father from blowing out his brains. David raises his eyebrows at his father, Julius. "I'm sorry," Julius whines. "I thought yous was one of them ETs. Do you still have the Dodge?" David blurts out, throwing the shotgun into the street. Two kids immediately dismantle it and run off with the parts. "You want to borrow the car?" Julius asks. "You can't drive?" "Hell, you don't even have a license. Even riding a bike is not your fault. You're driving," says David, pushing past his dad into the house, heading straight for the kitchen. "We going somewhere?" Julius asks as David opens every kitchen cabinet, closes it, opens it again, sighs heavily, and then stomps to the fridge, opening the door with a big, overly dramatic sigh. He stands in front of the open fridge, just staring into it. "Seriously, Dad? 7 bottles of mustard? but no Mountain Dew. As David and Julius prepare for the most epic road trip of all time, the president, codename Bill Pullman, sits on his bed talking on the phone, presidentially, to his wife, the First Lady, codename Sandra Bullock. Sandra Bullock rocks from foot to foot in a very swanky ballroom with, like, brass grapes embedded in a marble wall and a huge triple-tiered chandelier in the background. It's real classy, like a Marriott. 3 bodyguards flank her, facing in opposite directions to catch bad guys with guns or cockroaches with knives. Sandra's bodyguards are serious men, wearing sharp suits like groomsmen at a posh wedding or like the Pet Shop Boys. One of the men has a menacingly short hair and is wearing sunglasses inside, proving it all that he is in charge and will stop at nothing to protect Mrs. First Lady. I want you out of Chicago, somewhere safe, like Los Angeles, Tom yells into the receiver. Oh, well, I want you out of those pants, hot stuff, Sandra says. That's, okay later, but really, I'm serious. Get out of here. Tom bounces on the bed, agitated and nervous. Look, Sandra starts, feeling all of herself. You can't tell me what to do. You're not the boss of me. I'm the president. I'm the boss of everyone, Tom cries, twirling the phone cord around his finger. Sandra Bullock smiles at their phone flirting. Checking herself out in the bathroom mirror, she blows a kiss to her reflection. Behind her, the bodyguards each cock their heads slightly to the right and tap their right ears with their pointer fingers, looking down at the ground. Nothing is coming through their earpieces. This is all just part of the bodyguard experience. They are professionals and they are locked in. Please, Sandra Bullock? Tom asks, and the First Lady sighs, knowing it's no use arguing with him. All right, Tom, you win, she says. I love this town, but things do seem a bit scary right now, and I miss you. And our daughter, codename Meg Ryan. I promise I'll leave as soon as I can. I just need a selfie under the bean and some proper deep dish. Bring me some Garrett's, Tom says, and then sees that his friends are at the door and they're eager to get Catton set up. Tom says goodbye and that he loves her, and she says she loves him and says, you hang up. Then he's like, no, you hang up, and she's like, bye. All cute and silly, but she's not hanging up. And he just waits till she hangs up first, which is super cute, even though they're married and stuff. In the desert, there's an RV campsite, and 2 teenagers sit on the roof of their camper just watching the 9 o'clock news as kids do. Troy and Miguel are enjoying a typical single girl dinner of Oreo cookies, apple cinnamon rice cakes, and rosé in a can. Everybody's leaving, Miguel says. Car headlights create a dotted line on the distant hills beneath the spaceship in the sky above. Troy cracks open his second rosé of the night and settles back on his elbow. A local crop duster has been arrested today. The TV players, we are bringing you this hard-hitting news. This is an in-depth expose on the arrest of a local man when you need it most. Channel 6 has the Pulitzer Prize-winning news you want to hear. The kids sit up straight when they realize it's their dad, Russell, on TV getting arrested. Miguel's mouth drops open in shock, and his Oreo cookie falls into his lap as Troy sprays both of them with the rosé he spits out. I figured the news might cover the giant UFO hovering above us, blocking out the sun, causing panic and fear in a world turned upside down. Miguel starts, but I hadn't figured on Channel 6. Channel 6 in there, bone-deep, tough and gritty, soul-wrenching pursuit of truth. 9 o'clock local news. Always thorough. Channel 6 spent countless minutes researching Russell's background as a Vietnam War vet, his claims of alien abduction, and his mint collection of bobbleheads. Channel 6 is certain to be a shoo-in for the Peabody Award, as they present interviews with local barflies to further delve into the background of some rando who got arrested briefly during an alien invasion. Come on, we're out of here, Miguel mumbles, shaking his Oreo cookie crumbs off himself and gathering his rice cakes for the road. But what about Dad? Says his little brother Troy. But Miguel is gone, already off wandering the RV park looking for their sister. He does finally find Alicia in a van parked nearby. Miguel opens the door of the van to see Alicia making out with some really cool dude with like the best hair, kind of like Jim Morrison hair. Like all big and slightly curly, but not too curly like a perm, just wavy and full, like he definitely uses Pantene. But yeah, dude is totally giving off this lead singer vibe. The connection between these two kids is heady and undeniable, but no, Miguel is not having it. Alicia, let's go! Miguel doesn't want to wait for his sister to follow. Alicia shrugs, shakes hands with the cool dude, sparks still flying left and right between these two, and then follows her brother. The three gather in the RV and Miguel starts driving only to immediately slam on the brakes. There before him, in the road, stands his father, Russell, in overalls, looking like a raggedy-ass scarecrow broken free from the fields, or like Mario from Mario Kart. You read my mind. You gotta get as far away from these things as we can, Russell cries. Miguel tells Troy and Alicia to stay in the camper and hops out to confront his father. Miguel walks up to him slowly. They let you out of jail. Lock up. Who's cow? Miguel asks incredulously. They got bigger fish to fry. You might even say they got bigger aliens to fry, if you know what I mean. Russell smacks his baseball cap on his knee, crying, "Let's go, yippee!" and heads for the camper as Miguel stands there, confused. Across the desert from the RV park, there is a military base full of Marines, some in flight suits, some just in pajamas and slippers, gathered together watching the news. The screen is fuzzy and distorted due to the low-bid government contract for cable service. Captain Jimmy is playing with the rabbit ears as two of the men tell him to move it. You make a better window than door, Jimmy, shouts one of the Marine aviators to the giggles and backslaps of the others. The Marines are vetted to the Channel 6 Edward R. Murrow Award, winning news segment about a local crop duster, and don't see Captain Steve Miller come in behind them. He is not happy to see these pilots not doing push-ups or running in place, shouting, "Hut, hut! Let's find something better to do, man!" He shouts as he walks out of the room, and the men scatter, mumbling, "Hut, hut, 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 hut." Steve heads for the locker room, followed by his good pal, Captain Jimmy. "Where you been, man?" asked Captain Jimmy in his velvety, soothing New Orleans-esque tones, as if he's singing some romantic, soft jazz tune. "Stevie, man, this is unbelievable. This is huge. They recalled everybody." Steve spies a letter sticking out of his locker with Nassau clearly written on the return address label in large print. Not sure how a postal worker makes it into the locker room of Marine barracks, but no matter. "Would you mind reading this for me, Jimmy? I forgot my reading glasses," Steve says, passing the envelope to Jimmy. "You're a pilot who needs reading glasses, you motherfucker?" Jimmy asks. "Just read the damn thing." Jimmy clears his throat and opens the letter. It says, "Captain Stephen Miller, blah, blah, blah. Thank you for the beautiful drawing of what we presume was yourself in a spaceship. We regret to inform you, blah, blah." "Oh no, I'm so sorry." Steve shakes his damn head and turns around to open his locker, where he has taped pictures of all his drawings of spaceships, shuttles, and his own invention, a personal flying scooter. He shifts some of his gym clothes and books around, and a small box falls out of his locker. "Hey, the fuck is this?" Jimmy says, picking up the box from the floor. It slowly dawns on him as he opens it that this is a silk-covered ring box, and inside is an unmistakable engagement ring. A fat, flawless diamond shining like the goddamn sun, supported by delicately folded gold leaf shaped like a majestic motherfucking dolphin leaping over a perfect barrel wave. Jimmy squeals in joy, and Steve takes the box out of his hands. No, that's for Jasmine, says Steve. He pauses as he gazes at the ring. I don't know. She loves dolphins and tuna and other large game fish. What am I gonna say? But all Jared had was these dolphins, though. Jimmy replies, "That's interesting. I thought you was gonna call the whole thing off." Steve just sighs, looking at his Nassau rejection letter and the 1-year salary ring he bought for his beautiful girlfriend who he loves. That little dolphin seemed to be laughing at him at this very moment, but that could also be the mushrooms he took about an hour ago. "You know, I like Jasmine," Jimmy says matter of fact. He pauses as he considered what he's about to say, but then he just blurts out, "But you know they'll never let you fly a space shuttle if you marry a stripper. An exotic dancer, a private dancer, a dancer for money. Any old music'll do." Back in Los Angeles, it's a magical night. Steve's girlfriend Jasmine is doing her self-styled flash dance in her hand-stitched mermaid outfit. Glitter flies as she turns and lifts on stage to What a Feeling by Irene Cara. Oh, Jasmine is all grace and beauty in this beautiful high school gym decorated to the theme of Under the Sea, but also America. The foil fringe curtain simulates being underwater. Disco balls represent puffer fish. And above it all, the goddamn American flag representing America. Jasmine finishes her dance of the 7 fish and she's disappointed to see that no one is paying her any damn attention. There are only a few people even at this high school dance, and they're all just watching a TV in the corner. That TV's just showing people gathered on rooftops downtown dancing for the aliens. She's intrigued by their slick dance moves, but hops off stage. Since no one's watching her, Jasmine heads to the back room where her friends and colleagues are doing their makeup in front of mirrors with giant Broadway bulbs. Her friend Tiffany waves to her, mid-eyebrow pluck. "Check out the sign I made to welcome the aliens," Tiffany says, putting down her tweezers and pulling out a postcard from under her makeup table. The sign says, "Welcome, parking, $20. Now I know you're not thinking of joining those damn idiots," Jasmine says, but she's really just thinking about those cool dance moves she saw on TV, hoping Tiffany isn't going to learn them first. "Oh, I'm going over there as soon as my shift ends," Tiffany says, "and you should come too." Jasmine wiggles on her yoga pants and then grabs her purse and iced coffee that's now all watered down and walks over to Tiffany, kneeling down to look her right in the goddamn eyes. "I got a bad feeling about this," Jasmine says. "Like maybe stranding yourself on a rooftop during a motherfucking alien invasion isn't the best thing to do. I don't know. I just don't want you to go. Now you look at me and you promise me you won't go." But Tiffany's wild ass just rolls her eyes and then promises she won't go. "Good," Jasmine says, satisfied, and stands back up. "Look, I'm out of town for a while." Jasmine turns to leave, not noticing that Tiffany had her fucking fingers crossed behind her back, which means that promise she made was legally null and void. She's going to that rooftop. She's going to dance.
Thanks, Jake, and thanks to upright bass player Christian Berg for that super cool accompaniment. And now my intern Kevin will thrill and delight us with a behind-the-scenes interview with someone who worked on the actual film Independence Day. Kevin, Who'd you talk to this time?
I'm with Will Hines, who is the landmark consultant for the movie Independence Day. Will, how's it going?
It's going great. Thanks so much for having me.
What's a landmark consultant?
I get this question all the time. I basically am an expert on landmarks, and if people need to pick a landmark for whatever reason, I'm the guy to go to. If you're looking to, let's say you're looking to give directions, okay, and you want to know what's a good landmark to base your directions around, I'm the guy. I love iconic buildings and structures and natural formations, so I've just gathered a lot of information on it, and I turned my passion into a career.
Okay, that's perfect. So that leads to the next question. What about this movie? Why is your position important for Independence Day?
Well, okay, so not to get too spoilery, but Independence Day is about an alien invasion. Wait, that's true, right? This isn't about the sad coming of age novel of a sports writer from the 80s that I remembered, right? This is the movie with
Ye-
the aliens.
Yeah, that's the only movie I know about is the one with the aliens.
There's
I,
a
I
book.
think there's a
There's a
lot
book
of
called
yeah.
Independence Day about a divorced sports writer who tries to find his manhood. I also helped out with that, but okay, this is yes, the
Okay, yeah,
alien movie. Um,
cool.
yeah, the aliens invade, and part of their invasion is they blow up a lot of sort of iconic landmarks across the globe, which kind of
Hmm.
lets the world know that they mean business. And so the scriptwriters had to pick, the right sort of landmarks that would have the most impact on the audiences to see getting exploded. I think like the movie poster is the White House with a UFO above it, and a laser
Okay.
beam bearing down on it, for example.
Hmm.
So, I've got a lot of contacts in Hollywood, and word got around that I was a landmark consultant. And I got brought in to look over the landmarks they had chosen. And so I made my recs over what buildings should get blown up in the movie.
It seems that every movie I see that has an alien destroying Earth or earthquake or tornado or, I don't know, ants. I don't know, pick your poison,
Mhm.
tarantula or something. I don't know. They always destroy the Statue of Liberty, Empire State Building, the White House.
Uh-huh.
Like, why did you choose that knowing like
Hey,
everybody chooses that?
you're first of all, you can get as harsh with me as you want. You can disrespect me. In fact, I would love it. Uh,
I'm glad to know that now. Thank you.
but also that question's not disrespectful because I agree with you. None of my recommendations made it into the film. They overruled me straight down the line. And I think that movie would have been more successful and more memorable if they had gone with my picks.
I'm ready. I'm ready. I think we're all ready for the tea.
I mean,
What
yes,
landmarks were
thank you.
you
And that's
suggesting?
why I took this interview. Is like I've been waiting for people to know about the terrible decision makings that went into the
Exactly.
landmarks. The White
Hmm.
House would be the last landmark that I think should be blown up. I recommended that they blow up a Millard Fillmore Memorial. Millard Fillmore is the 10th president of the United States. He's famous for being handsome
Hmm.
and not causing trouble. And there is a memorial to him in the northwest quadrant of Washington D.C. And I was like, "That's how you make that's show that these aliens have done their research and are doing deep cuts. That'll be scary." And they said, "Thank you very much." I went and saw the movie. It was the White House. I was like, "I can't believe this."
So did you think maybe they didn't know?
I
You know what
thought,
I'm saying?
well,
Like,
yeah, maybe that got deleted in my email. Maybe they misplaced that one.
mm,
Maybe they got to do the White House. Maybe they got to do one obvious one just to kind of set the pace. But
mhm.
then, in New York City, there's the Empire State Building getting blown up. Not my recommendation, which was a Blimpies on Pearl Street down in the Wall Street district. And if that Blimpies got blown up, that would devastate the financial district of New York
Would it devastate like them financially, or just devastate them like as
emotionally.
far as eating emotionally? Okay, gotcha, gotcha,
It
gotcha,
probably
gotcha.
would have an impact on them financially too. In fact, I used to go to that Blimpies and I would say if this building ever got blown up, that would ruin this city. Egg on my
Yeah,
face when the actual Wall Street World Trade Center got blown up a couple years later, and that was also bad. But
yeah, yeah.
The Blimpies would have been terrible, and I recommended that
Did the Blimpies stay after the World Trade Center
went out of
situation?
business a couple
Twin
years later.
Towers?
Went out of business.
Okay, yeah. I'm pretty sure a lot. Yeah. I can see that happening.
There was a huge downturn, but that's sort of like a business dying of natural causes. You know what I mean? So there's a respect there. So I don't think that emotionally devastated the Wall Street community when the Blimpies merely went out of business. But if in the movie Independence Day you cut to this Blimpies and then like a laser beam from above explodes it, you'd hear sobs in the audience. Here's more. Paris, they blow up the Eiffel Tower. My recommendation was blow up the grave of Jim Morrison. Jim Morrison was buried right outside of Paris. And I was like, show the aliens, like, just imagine you're watching the movie. White House blows up. Capitol Records building in LA blows up. Also not my pick. Then to Paris, Jim Morrison's grave. You'd be like, what? That's too far. That's too far. To blow up an icon of the baby boomers, a poet of Venice Beach. Have you heard of Jim Morrison?
No, I have not. So I must be honest. As you were saying, I was completely confused.
That's no problem. He's the lead singer of the band The Doors, a band so cool they didn't need a bass player. Late 60s, they wrote the song Light My Fire, Break On Through to the Other Side. He was known as a
I think the more you talk about it, the deeper the hole of me not knowing is.
It's actually taking information away from you as I say stuff?
Yes, that's exactly
okay,
what it's
I have that effect. Anyway, Jim Morrison's a big 60s rock icon, and if you saw his grave getting blown up by aliens, that's war.
That's yeah. And like what it says is, like you said before, it says that the aliens, they're strategic. They know exactly what's going on. We're going to hit you where it hurts. Yeah, and we're going to hit the little people as well.
Learned English and been monitoring us for a while.
We always think it's about the president and the kings and queens. No. It's about the little people. I want to hit them where it hurts. You know what I'm saying? It's about the little people. They're the important people I want to mess up.
I also recommended that the aliens attack Mount Rushmore, blow away Teddy Roosevelt, and carve into the mountain a portrait of William Howard Taft. That was my recommendation because Taft was actually a more effective president than Teddy Roosevelt. Taft succeeded Roosevelt and actually got a lot of the legislation passed that Teddy was more famous, but Taft was better. So I was like, what if the aliens knew that? I made a huge treatment on this. I gave them a 50-page subplot of the aliens being really into President Taft.
So how did you even get this job? I mean, I know they didn't use any of your landmarks, but how did you even get the job of doing this for Independence Day?
I took photographs of several movie executives cheating on their spouses early in my career, and it led to a lot of generals and a lot of meetings.
So I'm assuming that in order to be this landmark expert and everything like that, you got to have a good memory. You got to be able to remember all these things. And with yours, it's specific places. It's not just the places like I would know. Any average idiot, it's specific places. How do you remember all this stuff?
Yes. Well, I do an intense regimen every morning. I eat 20 almonds right when I get up. Almonds are good for memory. I do the London Financial Times acrostic, just sort of, which is their crossword puzzle, just sort of as a mental workout. Punch myself in the face 10 to 15 times.
Whoa.
Do some transcendental meditation, 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes at night. And I like to read at least a book a day just to keep the old noggin working.
Oh, okay, cool. I got a question for you. This is a little personal question, so it's outside. I hope it's okay. No. Is 3rd and Broadway a landmark for you? Because it's a landmark for me. I want to know if it's a landmark for you.
Why is it a landmark for you? It is a landmark for me.
Well, that's where my bully lives.
Ooh.
I think he still lives there. He didn't really amount to much in his life. So
3rd and Broadway in Los Angeles?
Yes.
Yeah, I did not realize that. I did not realize that your bully lived there.
So he bullied me from second grade to me being 35 years old. And then he moved out to LA, and that's where he stays now.
Wow, that's rough. So he bullied you even after you guys were no longer in a school system together?
Exactly. Yes. He bullied me spiritually.
That's rough. That's rough when they get their hooks in you like that.
Yep. Well, nothing I can do about it. I just want to know if it was a landmark because I'm like, that'd be a great spot. You know what I'm saying? For an alien.
Well, yeah, I didn't know about that. There's a GameStop there that I think a lot of people shop at, and
he probably lives there. He didn't amount to much, so he probably lives in the back.
Okay,
I did a little Googling myself. Yeah.
I haven't I haven't checked who lives there, but I have walked by outside of it. I'm like, that GameStop's a good landmark, and I've written that down and recommended it to people.
You mentioned before we get off here, you mentioned that none of your ideas make it into movies. Has there been anything in your professional career that did work, that the landmark did make it somewhere, whether it's a TV show, a newspaper clipping, I don't know, anything?
I don't know if I can take credit for this, but I was in a meeting for Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, where Tom Cruise runs down the side of the big tall building in Abu Dhabi.
Yes.
Sorry, in
I remember
Dubai.
that.
In Dubai, yeah.
Yes.
I did not recommend that building. I recommended that he have his fight in a Blimpies, which is in the same city. There's a nice Blimpies there.
There's a Blimpies in Dubai?
Oh yeah, good one.
Oh man.
Usually in these meetings, they kind of say, well, we'll think about it. In this one, the guy laughed and is like, there's no way we're going to put a Mission Impossible sequence at a Blimpies. And I stood up and I was like, well, why don't you just have him run down the side of a building then, or something stupid? I'm like, that probably.
So they did it.
And then they did it. So, but it wasn't a sincere suggestion. It was sarcastic.
I want to thank you, Will, for joining us today. It's been great talking to you. Great hearing about your wonderful profession. To everybody else, this has been Kevin Carter. This is the interview portion of the Novelizers. Please enjoy the rest of the podcast.
Thank you, Kevin. I feel so much smarter. Next up, here's Big Bang Theory's Kevin Sussman narrating a chapter written by gentleman Mike Wilson. Mr. Sussman, novelize me.
Chapter 6, Pops and the Choppers. Novelized by Mike Wilson. Narrated by Kevin Sussman. On the big Washington, D.C. highway, Julius Pops Levinson felt at home behind the wheel of his ancient bucket of bolts. It reminded him of his cab driving days. All he ever wanted was for his son to succeed in his endeavors, to be a man of science, to take transportation beyond the cab, beyond even the rocket, all the way to straight-up teleportation. But that all came crashing down in a partially literal shitstorm of erupting mist-teleported baboons. Now, his son, who spent 8 years at a prestigious engineering school, is an ordinary employee of the redacted Super Nasty Cable Corporation. We're the only schlongs trying to get into Washington. Everyone else is trying to get out, Julius observes. As Julius drives at exactly the speed limit down the open highway, his son David uses the abundant time to multitask. He produces a shiny metallic CD-ROM from the recesses of his unzipped fly. What's that? Julius asks with evident wonder. It's, my ex-wife's phone number, David responds, pointing to a series of digits scrawled on the surface of the CD. Julius is dubious. Well, you think a VIP like Constance is just going to buzz us right into the White House? Fair point, David realizes. Connie is an important person. Well, I could try to teleport us in, David says. We could, I'll drive faster, Julius says, not wanting to hear the end of that idea. Turning up the radio, Julius winces, belches, and pulsates as the announcer mentions demonstrations in front of the White House protesting the involvement of the military with our extraterrestrial visitors. The ancient bucket of bolts picks up speed on the empty side of the highway, now barreling toward the Capitol dome. On arrival at the White House gate, David dials his ex-wife's phone number with one hand and grips his father's face with the other. Julius asks. Yeah, David says, all employees of the redacted Super Nasty Cable Corporation can do this, Pops. Julius and David gently float out of the window of the car, through the bars of the White House fence, and dodge fireflies as they drift across the lawn. Julius looks to David, but all he sees is a hand gripping his face. They blink into and out of existence. They hover and shimmy and vanish like nothing. Reappearing in normal form, Julius and David explode out of Connie's phone, annihilating her authentic name-brand purse, redacted ultra-disgusting brand toothpaste, and super-redacted cinnamon-clawed cereal. All contents of the purse are blasted into everything and nothing at all. How does he do that? Connie wonders aloud as her ex-husband, former father-in-law, cereal, toothpaste, and obliterated phone land on the White House carpet in front of her. Nearby, in the massive catastrophe room, President Whitmore is sprawled sideways on a dilapidated couch. He fumbles with the remote, easily the filthiest object in a room that is itself practically a sewer. What's with all the helicopters on TV? The president asks. They are helicopters, sir, the chief of staff points out. Magnificent, beautiful, and powerful helicopters, sir. An elderly pundit's voice blares forth from the television. The extraterrestrials have arrived, but the president has remained at the White House. Are the president's actions cool or deranged? The president adjusts his posture and comes to grips with reality.
Wait, has this got something to do with the extraterrestrials?
That would be my guess, the chief of staff responds. The president walks over to the big map on the big table and locates the alien craft hovering over the Capitol. The chief of staff quivers with anticipation. The president reaches across the map to Andrews Air Force Base and gently pinches a tiny helicopter with his grimy fingers. The chief of staff emits a squeak. Ha! The president lifts the tiny helicopter into the air over the map and starts moving it in the direction of the alien craft. He says, by way of imitating a helicopter noise. He moves the tiny helicopter closer to the alien ship. The chief of staff joins in the chorus. At Andrews Air Force Base, a full-size helicopter lifts off behind a herd of newscasters screaming into microphones. "The chopper is off," one of them declares, approaching what is unanimously agreed to be the ass of the spacecraft, a vertical cleavage some 9 city blocks in extent. Back at the White House, Connie drags Julius and David into the presidential boudoir. "If I had known the president was going to see me, I would have worn a tie," Julius declares. "I look like a schlong." Connie approaches David. "I don't know if the president's going to want to see you." "Why wouldn't he want to see you, David?" Julius asks. Because last time I saw him, we got into a bit of a scuffle," David answers. Connie turns to Julius while pointing at David. "He punched him in the head at a formal dinner because the president complained about a fly in his soup." David immediately objects to this summary. "Well, the waiter offered to teach it to swim, and the president just laughed and did nothing. He didn't let the waiter help the fly." Connie isn't having it. "Then you vomited digestive enzymes into your own soup and complained that the bowl wasn't big enough." Now David has had it up to here. "Yeah, I was having some side effects from my teleportation experiments. I wasn't entirely myself. Now, are you gonna get the president, or should we head back to the car?" Connie relents. All right, I get him, she says. "You wait here and don't fuck anything." Connie slides into the massive catastrophe room via the pole through the ceiling. She lands directly on the president, knocking him to the ground. Crouching over his head, she whispers mysterious words into his brain. The president lifts himself off the floor and attempts to scramble up the pole, but struggles to avoid sliding back down. Connie pushes him toward the ceiling and clings to the pole directly under him, supporting his weight and allowing him to reset between climbing bursts. Slowly, they ratchet upward, climb and stop, 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 disappearing into the void above in the ceiling. "You're leaving now?" the chief of staff cries out. "Well, we didn't even get to the tanks. I painted it myself." And tears welling up in his eyes. In the boudoir, the president emerges through the hole in the floor and almost disappears into the shag carpet. Connie completes her ascent just behind him and provides the CPR necessary to resuscitate him. As consciousness returns, the president sees David and begins to crawl back toward the hole. "I don't have time for this," the president says, and attempts to block his ears with his fingers. "I told you he wouldn't listen," David says. "I don't think he can get his fingers all the way up to his ears," Connie points out. "His arms, they're too weak and tired from climbing the pole. Tell him, David, tell him now." David speaks at once. I know why we have disrupted satellite functions," he says. They're using our own satellites against us." The president strains to lift his head above the carpet and speaks. "Does it have anything to do with that tattoo of a redacted superviolent stupid cartoon dude getting lasered off the president's ass?" "Excuse me?" David responds. Rising to a crouch, the president continues. "My ass. I'm a big fan of that cartoon dude, but the eggheads tell me that he pulls worse than anything but redacted, insufferable, wise-ass cartoon animal.
If the aliens have been eavesdropping on the satellites and plan to leak that story, oh, it would crush my approval numbers.
No, nothing like that, David says. The president reaches his feet and heads toward the comfy chair.
So, what are they using the satellites for then?
David responds grimly. Oh, they're using the satellites to coordinate a countdown to, Armageddon.
Aha! Well, that's it? No president's ass, no lasers?
The president inquires. That's it, David replies. The president's posture appears to melt all at once. He falls backward toward the comfy chair and cries out with relief.
Ah, thank God.
As the laser-irritated areas of his ass land in the so-called comfy chair, the president yelps, flinches, and leaps face first into the carpet. His chief of staff pokes his head through the floor directly in front of him. Excuse me, Mr. President. They're starting. As the president grips the pole to slide back down to the massive catastrophe room, David gets in a few final words. The clock is ticking.
Food for thought. Food for thought. Well, that's our show for today. Tune in next week for amazing chapters by Maura Quint and Josh Gondelman. Till then, Kevin, land this fucking spaceship.
The Novelizers was created by Stephen Levinson, produced by Stephen, Chris Karwowski, Rob Kuttner, and Suchetis Bokiel. Editing, mixing, and mastering by Chris. Improv booking by Christine Bullen. Music by Cole Imhoff. Art direction by Crystal Dennis and illustrations by Barry Crane. Intro narration by Robin Reed. Interviews by me, Kevin Carter. Special thanks to Luke Dennis and Peter Hayes at YSO Public Radio in Yellow Springs, Ohio. Check out thenovelizers.com for more info about the show and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and occasionally TikTok. If you enjoyed Novelizers, please support us on Patreon or email thenovelizers@gmail.com to sponsor an episode. Till next time, I'm Kevin Carter. Novelizers out.